Hello and welcome back. My name is Menke. It's been a while since I've made a video, but I'm glad to be here. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. We're going to take a look at a video today. It's a little bit outside what we have normally done. It's basically what it would have been like if I would have managed my money properly over the past 10 years. And we're going to take a look at Graham Stephan, what it's like to retire at 30 years. Oh, I'm getting that wrong. How to retire by 30 years old with $0. Or starting with $0. Yeah, starting with $0. How to retire by 30 years old. I'm 30 years old, and this is what I should have done. So we're gonna see what he's got to say and why I'm so broke. Alrighty, we got the ears on. We got the video pulled up. Again, how to retire by 30 years old, starting with $0. Again, if there's any young kids out there, manage your money properly. Look into how to properly manage it. Be safe. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take anything I say or comment on as financial advice. I don't know if he's a financial advisor, whatever. Anyways, be smart with your money. Invest it properly. But, let's see what Graham has to say. All right?
What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So the other week, I posted a video about how much money you should save by every age. And in that video, I go in detail about how much money you should be putting away every single year in order to make sure you're on track to retire by 65. But I made a mistake because so many of you began commenting that 65 years old is too long to wait, and you want to be able to retire sooner than that because you could be dead tomorrow.
All right, well, yeah, we all want to retire by 30. I wish I was retired right now. I'm not sure what I'd be doing with my life, but, yeah, that's all kind of, it's always the dream. Especially the younger you are, the less you want to really work, and the more you want to go have fun and do stuff. And still, I don't want to be really 65 and retiring. That's not really a goal. I'd ideally like to retire before then. Now, is that going to happen? Who knows? Hopefully. We'll see. But, yeah, I can definitely see how people are like, no, 65, that's way too far out there. And a lot of those big financial guys do, have those plans, those nice, stable, less risky plans that kind of lead you out to retiring at 65. This will be interesting to see how he's going to you basically have 12 years, right? So I think he's going to go maybe from the time you're 18 to the time you're 30, or maybe he's going to suggest you start younger. Let's see.
So yeah, when enough people comment wanting to retire way sooner than that, then you bet I'll make a video on it, and I'll go over exactly what you need to do to be able to retire by 30 years old. And I'm going to be telling you all of this coming from the perspective of someone who became completely financially independent in their late 20s. In fact, I just recently turned 30, and I'm super fortunate to be in a position today where if I were to stop working, I could cover my lifestyle indefinitely from my investments and continue to grow my net worth at the same time. So yeah, none of this is theory.
Real quick, that's just awesome to think about. Like, having that security blanket to where, you could just quit work tomorrow and you could still live your lifestyle until you pass away. Not just be able to have money and maybe downgrade your lifestyle, but to be able to live your lifestyle until you're that age. And I'm sure he lives a pretty good lifestyle.
Theory, and I'm not going to be talking about any bogus hypotheticals from someone who's never done what they're talking about. I'll just go over the reality of being able to retire by 30, exactly what you'll need to do to get there, and how it helps to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. See, that is one of the biggest mistakes and oversights that people don't realize about early retirement, is that it all begins with the blue like button. So once you do that, congratulations, you're one step closer to early retirement. With that said, let's begin the video. Okay, so first, when it comes to being able to retire by 30, I want to introduce everyone to what's known as the FIRE movement. It stands for Financially Independent Retired Early, and it's a community of people that dive into the analytics of exactly what you will need to be able to retire by any age. This is a community that I've been involved in for about 8 years now, and it's helped me tremendously in terms of getting me to where I am today. It's all about figuring out exactly how much money you need to sustain your current lifestyle without ever needing to work another day in your entire life, and the math behind it is incredibly simple. To start, we have 5 different types of financial independence to aim for, and I'm going to be outlining them each for you really quick because this is going to determine how you're going to be able to retire by 30. The first one is known as what's called lean FIRE. This is a type of frugal financial independence that allows you to retire off the bare essentials without ever needing to work again. You're not going to be retiring in luxury or glamour, but you should be able to live in a small apartment, drive a car, eat some healthy meals at home, and have some inexpensive entertainment. Again, this is all about frugality. As far as what it
So that's kind of what I was saying before, there's different ways, right? You can set yourself up to like, well, I'm going to retire, but I can't retire and live the same lifestyle I'm living now. So you kind of got to downgrade, right? Maybe get a smaller place, smaller car, cheaper car, right? Don't go out to eat as much. So I guess that's lean fire. I've never heard of these terms before. I didn't know the whole fire thing and lean fire, but kind of making sense.
It takes to get there. The actual definition of lean fire is being able to retire off an income below what the average American makes of $61,000 a year. So typically, if you're going to be spending less than $40,000 a year in retirement, then lean fire is something to aim for. The second, we have what's known as barista fire. This one is when you have enough saved and invested to cover most of your expenses, but not everything. So at this point, if you want to quit your job, you can, and then you could take on some enjoyable part-time work on the side to pay for all of your other expenses as necessary, like working as a barista. This is all about being able to move on to something that might pay less money, but you'll have way more flexibility and way more free time throughout your day to do whatever you want. Next, number 3, we have a term called coast fire. This is when you've saved up enough money that it's able to grow to an amount in the future that you could be completely financially independent of without any further work or involvement or investment on your end. For example, if you have enough money invested in your 20s, sometimes all you gotta do is just let those investments grow, and then at some point in the future, you're gonna have enough money to be able to retire off of. Then number 4, we have our normal term of financial independence. This one is our typical version of retirement that most of us think about. It's being able to live our normal, regular lives without ever needing to work again. Now sure, you're probably not gonna be driving Lamborghinis all day and going and staying at the Ritz-Carlton every weekend, but still, you're not gonna have to worry about money within reason, and you're not gonna have to work if you don't want to. And finally, the last one we have, number 5, and that's
Right off the bat, I think that's everybody's kind of goal. Most Americans' goal, at least, is to be able to retire and kind of be able to do what they normally do, live their normal life, and have the money to do it without working. I know that's one of my goals. I know that's, a lot of my family, that's been their goal. It's a pretty common thing here in the States. I don't know how it is the rest of the world, but the more I've been looking into trying to manage money properly and all these things, it's all about, starting as soon as you can. If you haven't started yet, it's best to start now. It can take a while to get there. You got to start. That's where eventually you get to the point where you can retire off of some of your investments and things like that in the future. One day I'll get there, but let's see how we get to doing it by the time you're 30.
That's what's known as fat fire. This is for not only the people who want to retire, but also for the people who want to retire and never think to themselves, how much money does it cost and can I afford it? This one typically means that you're going to be spending over $200,000 a year in retirement, and you'll be able to earn what most Americans can only dream of without ever needing to work another day in your entire life. So in order to tell you exactly how you could reach these fire milestones, I'm going to be going over exactly what you'll need to do in order to get there and exactly how much money you will need and all the calculations you'll need to know. It's very easy. All of this at its core really just comes down to a few things, and this is what you need to know. 1, how much money do you need to spend every single year? Number 2, how much money do you currently have saved up? And number 3, how much money do you currently make? If you know the answers to those 3, which honestly you should know the answers to those 3, that's going to tell you everything you need to be able to retire by 30. And really, to start, how much money you spend is going to be the most important variable to this entire calculation. Generally speaking, if you're under 30 years old and you want your money to last you indefinitely without ever running out, you'll need to only spend 3% of what you have invested every single year. So that means if you have $100,000 invested, you could spend $3,000 a year without ever running out of money. If you have $1 million invested, you could spend $30,000 a year without running out of money, and so on. Now, how much money you spend is going to greatly influence how much money you will need in order to retire.
So I think that's just kind of going off of what, the minimum, lowest amount of interest you can ever make on your money. If you invest it into just, I think even like the S&P, you're going to make more than 3% over a long term on your money. And so that's saying, well, if you spend less than you're getting back in interest, you can pretty much live out on that indefinitely. $3,000 a year, it's kind of hard to live off that. But it's a very easy calculation to think of. It. Very easy, but I don't think most people, including myself, really think about that stuff a lot.
Because for every $100 a month that you spend, you're going to need $40,000 invested for that $100 a month to last forever. By that logic, it also means that for every $100 a month less that you spend, you will need $40,000 less invested. And yeah, that's a substantial amount. I mean, that could be someone's entire year's paycheck just to spend $100 a month. So once you figure out exactly how much money you're going to need to spend every year, then we can move on to the next step. That would be how much money do you have saved up and invested? Whatever that amount is, just divide that by 33, and that's how much income your investments will be able to replace. From there, all you need to do is some super easy math to figure out how much more you will need in order to retire. All you're going to need to do is take how much money you spend every single year, multiply that by 33, and then whatever amount that is how much you're going to need before you can call yourself retired. This is all based on what's known as the Trinity study, which analyzed the investment portfolios of stocks and bonds throughout every single year in history and calculated how much you could spend from your investments throughout a 30-year retirement. And that study found, based on hundreds of simulations, that you could spend 4% of your portfolio every single year and make sure your money lasts you for 30 years. However, even though a 30-year retirement might work if you're 65 or 70 years old, it's probably not going to work if you want to retire by 30. So in order to preserve more capital so you could retire for a longer period of time, it's instead recommended you do a 3% withdrawal rate. So for example, if you spend $40,000 a year, just multiply that by 33, and you're going to need $1,320,000 if you want to be able to retire by 30. If you want to be able to lean fire off $25,000 a year, then again, just multiply that by 33, and you're going to need $825,000 invested to hit that goal. Then if you want to be able to fat fire off $200,000 a year in retirement, again, multiply that by 33, smash the like button, and you're going to need $6.6 million invested. And that's pretty much all the basic math you're going to need to know. Now, obviously, if you...
So pretty much, if I had $6.6 million invested right now, I could retire. I could retire fat fire. Retire fat fire, $200,000 a year would be my spending limit. And man, that'd be sweet, wouldn't it? Thing of it is, it doesn't really matter. I don't think if you're 20 or 30, you just got to start doing something about it, right? You just got to start doing something about it.
You have higher yielding investments, like you're investing in real estate, that gives you a 5% return. The same calculation also applies, just modify it slightly for whatever you're investing in. And finally, the last factor in this equation, and that would be how much money do you currently make? This is going to tell you how long it'll take for you to hit that retirement number and whether or not you'll have to earn more money to want to get there sooner. Being able to retire by 30 is not easy, and it's not cheap per se. So if you're currently making $30,000 a year, saving none of it, and expect to retire with $40,000 a year in passive income with a $1,320,000 nest egg, you're going to need to find a way to make more money, and you're going to be able to calculate that by taking your current spending, multiplying that by 33, then subtracting what you currently have invested and saved, and then whatever's left over is how much more money you will need to make. From there, calculate how much more money you'll have to make to get there by 30, and it's probably a very big number. Now let's get into the part that I'm sure all of you are interested in, and that's how you could retire by 30 years old. Now obviously this is going to be way different if you're watching this at 29 and a half years old and you're like,
but Graham, I can't retire in 6 months at 30 years old.
Versus someone else who's watching this at 2 years old and you're starting to say,
yeah, if you're like me and you're 30, 29, maybe in your mid 20s, you're probably not going to retire by 30. I mean, that's the facts of the matter, unless you get really lucky or you win the lottery or something, right? Or you do something really epic and cool. But, kids, like I said, I know there's a younger audience sometimes that watches my channel. If there's anything you can say now as you're young, just be smart with your money, put some aside, safely, save up your money. And I know it's hard to do when you're young. You want to do fun things, buy stupid things, do stupid stuff, right? We've all been there. But it's one of those things that in the long run can really, really pay off. And you can live like nobody else at my age, at 30 years old. That's one of the things that Dave Ramsey says a lot, sacrifice now so you can live like nobody else later on, or something like that. Let's hear how Graham likes to make his money.
Save as you're learning to walk. So we're going to be opening this up instead to how to retire in your 30s, so that way more people are included, but regardless, the strategy is exactly the same. Now the blogger Mr. Money Mustache did the calculation for us and calculated how long you will need to work compared to how much money you save in order to retire. Using the 4% rule, he determined that if you're able to save and invest 70 to 90% of your income, you would be able to effectively retire within 10 years of working. Let me say that once more, because I'm sure some of you are just partially listening to this and zoning out. Hey, listen to this right now. If you're watching this, just listen to this. If you're able to save 70 to 90% of your income for 10 years, you will have effectively saved up enough money to continue your current lifestyle indefinitely and be able to retire without ever needing to work ever again. But of course, though, he did.
Let's think about that for a second. All right, let's say you make $50,000 a year, right? That means you have to save if you want to save 90%, that's $45,000. That means you can only spend $5,000 a year. If you can spend $5,000 a year while making $50,000, then yeah, that's going to be really hard for a lot of people. But I still think I get the point, and I get what he's getting at here.
Did find, because of math, that the less money you save, the longer you'll need to work for. But once you're able to start saving a significant portion of how much money you make, you'll be able to cut down the time required to retire significantly. Wait a second. The time required to retire. The time required to retire. That's really hard to say. But anyway, for example, if you make $70,000 a year, then theoretically you should be able to retire in 10 years if you only spend $21,000 a year. Doing that is going to let you live indefinitely with that same lifestyle after those 10 years, and then anything else you make after that is just icing on the cake. But really, the big picture here is that...
See, real quick though, I guess, maybe the 90% is a little bit too much. Maybe that'll get you retired in like 6 years, right? Or whatever it is. But this is, this could make a little more sense, right? If it's 70,000, that's how much you make a year. And it's a little bit above average. Apparently, average is 61,000. That's what he said. 10 years, you only spend $21,000 a year. 21,000. I probably only spend $21,000 a year. Let's be real. Like, I don't spend a lot of money. That's probably how much I spend. So maybe if I just get a job, or find a job that makes me $70K, a little bit more, and continue my current spending 10 years. All right. That makes it a little more doable.
That you're not going to have to need to work unless you want to, as long as you just keep your spending the exact same. So number one, a high savings rate is a must if you want to be able to retire early, or especially if you want to retire at 30 years old. Realistically, most people are probably going to have to save above 80% of their income if they want to reach this goal at a young age. Like it or hate it, that's the reality of what you will need to do. Practically, if you want to retire by 30, you'll either have to make a lot of money or spend very little money. But assuming you guys just want to make a ton of money to be able to retire as quick as possible, I'll give you the rundown and go over the details of what's required. Most likely, unless you're making $100,000.
Real quick, I was curious to see, he said a high interest savings account. I'm curious at the rate, what he was talking about for high interest. Is it 1.5, 2.5? I mean, that's like, get up there. That's hard to find at most banks. And most savings account are like 0.5 or 0.1% interest for you, so it's not that great. You got to find certain banks that offer those high interest savings accounts.
$1,000 a year in a high earning job right out of college while simultaneously living just a few steps above homelessness, you're not going to be able to retire by 30 while working a traditional job. If you're already making a ton of money, then it really just comes down to cutting back on your spending, living frugally, investing as much money as you can, and then it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And for everyone else out there who wants to be able to retire by 30 and make a ton of money, is to work a career that pays you based off your results and not based on your time. The biggest problem I have about getting paid for your time is that there's only 24 hours in a day. So if you're working hourly or you're on a salary, eventually you're going to hit a ceiling in terms of how much income you can make, and once you hit that, there's just no more hours in the day. On the other hand, if you get paid on your results, then theoretically you should be able to find a way to streamline those results so that you could end up making way more money without necessarily working any harder. I'll use myself as an example. I started out as a real estate agent. How many hours I worked was completely irrelevant. I only got paid when I sold a house, and I was able to leverage my time a lot better by focusing on the houses that I knew I could sell the quickest and in the areas where I knew I could make the most amount of money. Even here on YouTube, it's the exact same work for me to make a video to reach 10 subscribers as it is for me to make a video that reaches 2 million subscribers. Even though, funny enough, now I end up working way harder. But you get the idea. It's essential that you work in a career where you could leverage what you do and make more money without necessarily working more hours. That's why I believe the best business to be in today is anything that you could do from your computer on the internet or anything paid on commission. If you use your time efficiently, you could end up making way more money very early on, and that's going to help you retire sooner. Or like I mentioned, online businesses could be perfect for this. I'm not saying go out and build an e-commerce store, but if you want to make a lot of money fast, then building an online business is probably going to be your best shot at getting there. I promise you it's going to take a significant amount of work, and you'll have to be involved in this for years in order for it to be successful.
So this is, I think, one of the things he's kind of getting at is, even if it's not an online business, but it's a good point. Like, online businesses are kind of the way of the future now. A lot of people don't want to do anything for free, including for themselves, right? They don't want to spend, weeks or months or even a year or so working on something, working on a project. And there's no gratification, there's no instant gratification happening. That sacrifice can pay off in the long run, whatever it is, whether it's a YouTube channel or an online business, or even, a side hustle, that you build up in your own free time and you end up making some good money on it. And then you can use that money to put aside, and that's one of the things too. I don't know if he's going to mention this, but I recommend a side hustle for anybody or something, even turn your hobby into making a little bit of cash. Turn something you already do into maybe something you can make a little bit of money on the side. Put that aside, and maybe like a high interest savings account. Or yeah, I mean, it's one of those big kind of, I don't know if it's philosophical ideas, but it's just, the instant gratification thing. So many people fall into that trap, myself included, that if you're not getting rewarded for the work you're doing right this moment, then you're not going to do that work. That work doesn't seem purposeful or meaningful or worth it.
But if you want to be able to retire within a decade, you will most likely get there by working for yourself. And really, at the end of the day, if you want to end up making a lot of money to be able to retire really quick, you have to completely decouple the notion that the harder you work and the more hours you work, the more money you will make, because that is not true at all. Secondly, one of the ideas that I read from the book, The Millionaire Fastlane, just summarizes this perfectly. Think like a creator, not like a consumer. Instead of watching and consuming YouTube videos, start creating YouTube videos. Instead of going and consuming and buying t-shirts and clothing online, sell the clothing online. Instead of not smashing the like button, smash the like button. You get the idea. You need to begin creating value and building something, not just using and consuming. And finally, you're gonna have a much better chance at making a ton of money if you thoroughly enjoy what you do. I've said this all the time, but if you absolutely hate your work, there is no way that you're gonna be able to perform at a high enough level to get good at what you're doing to be able to make a ton of money and retire within 10 years. Everyone that I have met that's been able to retire in their 30s has had a passion for what they do, and I don't think that's by random fluke. Find something you like, create a business that pays you around your results, and then leverage to scale that up to make even more money. And I'm sure
That's kind of what I was saying with the hobby thing, right? Find something you like, find something you enjoy doing, or something that you already do. And again, a lot of the stuff that he says don't do, I've done. I've tried to make the quick buck and done stuff that I don't enjoy doing. And you're right, you fail because you don't have interest in it, and you end up just you don't have the motivation to do it or have the interest to do it, right? Because you don't see the results either right away, especially that instant gratification. So you have to enjoy what you're doing. I'll get into this on another video or in the future, but that's kind of the reason why I took a little bit of a break from YouTube. Is I was trying to find what I enjoy doing about YouTube, and kind of get back to that feeling of when I started and I was having a lot of fun. I was kind of falling away from that. So
sure at this point, some people might like mentioning some wild investments like buy Tesla call options or buy crypto. But overall, the riskier the investment and the higher the payout, the higher the likelihood that you're going to end up losing money or not making anything at all. So at that point, you may as well just go and buy lottery tickets, because if that works, then yes, that's how you could retire by 32. And because everyone wants specifics with this stuff, with real numbers, here you go. If you're 20 years old right now and you want to spend $50,000 a year in retirement at the age of 30, then you will need $1,650,000 invested. That works out to you needing to invest $93,000 a year at an average of an 8% return on your investments to be able to reach that goal. That means if you could find a way to average $150,000 a year in income throughout your 20s before taxes while only spending $22,000 a year, that's what it takes to be able to retire by 30 years old with $50,000 a year in passive income indefinitely. Yeah, wow. Then if you want to retire off of $40,000 a year, just apply the same calculation as we just did, and that means you will need to invest $75,000 a year over 10 years. And if you want to spend $25,000 a year in retirement, then you could do the same thing by investing $48,000 a year for 10 years. This all assumes you start at the age of 20 and keep your spending the exact same.
See, a lot of those seem doable, you know what I mean? And again, you don't have to start at 20, but those numbers are based off of 20. But you could start at 30, you could start at 40, right? Just find the way to put those numbers in there. It's doable. It's doable, guys. Be smart with your money.
Some investments might definitely speed things up a bit depending on how involved you want to be, like with real estate. Like if you're able to save $50,000, then you could use that as a down payment to go and buy a $250,000 home. And if you search hard enough for a deal, you might be able to buy a place worth $280,000, but only pay $250,000 for it, thereby giving you $30,000 extra in free equity. Then let's assume you spend $20,000 more fixing it up, and now it has a market value of $330,000. In that case, you've spent $70,000 and you have a property worth $60,000 more than what you've paid for it, so essentially you've pretty much doubled your money in about a year. If you're able to do something like that every 12 to 24 months, then you're able to hit the retirement age much, much earlier, especially if that property is generating way more than a 3 to 5% return. It's all about...
So this is one of the big things that I've been wanting to get into for a while, and it's one of those things that COVID really kind of kicked me in the nuts on, because I was trying to save up that down payment for that house, right? But that's the thing with real estate that's very interesting to me, at least, is being able to save up that money to then finally get that property, right? Get that equity, and then possibly even rent it out to some tenants or whatever it may be. make some money, have them pay the mortgage. And then he's talking about this whole like rinse and repeat, right? You buy the property, you fix it up a little bit, it's a little bit valued higher than the money you put in or spent on it. Now you can sell it for more, and you do that again and again. The cool thing about it is, with the tenants, or if you have somebody there living there and do it the right way, after 15, 20, 30 years, whatever your mortgage is, you have 3 properties paid off that you put very little money into as far as payments goes. And this is where he has made a lot of his money, is doing things like this, and a lot of people make a lot of money doing things like that. You just got to be very smart about how you do it, and you have to save up that money. That's the big thing, and that's the barrier to entry, right? There's a lot of barriers to entry in certain things. This is one of them. You have to be able to save up that down payment to get that property, because if you just don't put any money down on a property and you go out and buy a house, your mortgage is going to be too high for what it can cause problems, right? You don't want the house to own you. You want it to own the house. Same with a car. Be smart with your money. Again, not a financial advisor. Don't take anything I'm saying seriously. Be smart with your money. Invest it properly. And this is the thing that I'm working toward. This is my goal, is getting into real estate.
Trying to get your money to work for you while also living frugally, while also trying to make as much money as you possibly can. I know some of this might seem like, duh, Graham, that's obvious, but the reality of early retirement is really just numbers. You must make enough money to be able to save 70 to 90% of your income for a matter of 10 years, and at its core, that's what it's going to take if you want to retire by 30. I was able to do this through a combination of living really frugally, like throughout my entire 20s. My net out-of-pocket cost every single month was $1,500 to $1,800, even though at the time I was making $150,000 a year or more. And also, I never increased my quality of living until I had enough money invested to be able to sustain it indefinitely. Even now that I've moved into a new spot that actually costs money because I'm not renting the entire thing out, I made sure my investments would be able to cover that cost so that I'm never spending more than I make from my investments. And that's what's given me the freedom to have the choice to retire whenever, even though I absolutely love working and I have no plan on stopping anytime soon. But overall, that's the guide if you want to retire at 30 years old. There's no magic pill out there.
See, isn't that so crazy though, that you can get to that point, being smart about it and putting in that work and that sacrifice, and you can get to a point where everything you spend is being paid for by your investments, is being paid for by your interest. You're not working. It's just it's the interest you're accruing on all this money you've put away. All this money is making you so much money that it's covering everything you spend. It's just like you basically create a machine. It's the goal. It's the goal one day, guys. One day.
There's no one way to make this happen, but it all really comes down to how much money are you saving, how much money are you making, and how much money do you want to spend in retirement. And it really helps significantly to leverage your time, get paid on results, save your money, invest consistently, and as usual, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, feel free to add me on Instagram. I post there pretty much daily, so if you want to be a part of it there,
yeah, definitely go check out Graham's channel. I mean, seriously, I've watched quite a few of his videos over the last few years. I haven't seen this one, but he's got some really, really good content. Definitely go subscribe to him. Go check out his channel. I'll link this video in the description below so you can take a peek. All right, so there you have it. If you want to retire by the age of 30, that's all you have to do, kids. All right, just make a ton of money. Don't spend any of it, and put all of it away into some high interest savings or some investments, some safe stuff. Just put it into some safe stuff, right? If you're making a lot of money and spending any of it, you don't need to be risky. You can just be safe. All right. There's a lot of interesting things that you can take away from this guy. I do, like I said, recommend checking out his videos. Go check them out. And again, if you like this video, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Welcome back. It's good to be back with you guys. I'm sorry it's been such a long time since I made a video, but it's good to be here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Peace, love. We'll catch you later. Cheers.